How do you go from an employment nightmare to your dream job? Welcome back to the podcast that shows you even the most successful people had to start at the bottom. This is I'd Quit But I'm Broke, brought to you by Student Beans, and I'm your host, Matt Kerridge. Each week, we have a different celebrity guest come on and dust off their old CV and share with us their horror stories and funniest moments for our amusement. This week, it's Mob Kitchen food producer, Jordon Ezra King. Cheers for coming on, Jordon.
No worries, man. Nice to be here.
So, for those who aren't as familiar with Mob Kitchen as I am, could you give us like a brief explanation of what it is?
Yeah, Mob is it's like a recipe platform basically. So we provide really nice kind of accessible food content across different social media platforms and in our books as well. That is the kind of purpose behind it is to make affordable, easy, accessible, but also still good quality cooking primarily for like students and young people, but really for anybody who enjoys cooking or wants to get into cooking and learn more about it.
So you're basically what I'd call a new age celebrity. So you don't have like a more traditional celebrity job. Like we had Ethan last week, who's an actor, and Cam, who's got a bit of a social media following, but he's also like a TV presenter.
Yeah.
So you're someone whose role is basically just on social media.
Yeah.
How do you describe your job to people that aren't in our generation? Because I know both of my grandparents are listening.
Okay, so I would say that maybe you could liken it to a chef that you would see on telly doing kind of recipe videos for people to follow along with at home. But rather than the medium being TV, it's social media. So you see the videos via Instagram or via YouTube or via Facebook instead of, on whichever TV channel that you're watching, right?
All right,
Other than that, it's fairly similar to what they do.
There you go, Grandma. That one was for you. So we'll come back to Mob later. But for now, I'm going to take you all the way back. What did you want to do when you were a child?
Oh, what did I want to do when I was a child? I think it probably changed quite often depending on like what film I just watched with somebody cool in, or what my dad did, or what one of his friends did, or what my mum's mate did when they came around for dinner that sounded cool. I think it just kind of changed and chopped and changed quite a lot. I remember wanting to be a doctor. I remember wanting to be a journalist. I remember all kinds of different things. An architect at one point. I wanted to work in fashion for a while. I wanted to work in advertising after that. And it just changed and evolved as I grew up, I suppose. And as I became interested in different things. And then I think I got to the point where I realized you could be interested in something without wanting it to be your job necessarily. It could be a hobby or a
huge range.
Yeah.
Did anything stick for a particularly like long stretch of time?
I would say, yeah, I wanted to work in advertising for quite a long time.
As all children do.
Yeah. This, to be fair, that's when I was quite a bit older.
Oh, okay.
When I was like a young kid, I'm not sure that anything did stick for a particularly long time. I think it was always just,
And then did you end up just watching Ratatouille and you were like, yep, that's be a chef now.
That's the one for me.
So after you left school, what kind of roles did you go into?
So when I first left school, the first thing that I did is I started working at a tailor's in the West End. And I was quite interested in that. I kind of flirted with the idea of becoming a tailor for a while.
So you kind of did like follow up from your kid dream of being like in fashion?
Yeah, well, that Almost. Was the point when I got interested in
okay.
it.
So yeah.
That wasn't as a child. That was at this point when I went into that world of, it's like this proper old school world of kind of old London. You're all around like St. James, Savile Row, that area of Mayfair, and it's like stepping back in time. And just, I was quite kind of, I suppose, it like captured me in a way, and I was quite intrigued by it. And I was learning all about a new industry that I didn't know anything about, and meeting new people, and just like mad clients coming into the tailors, people that you learn that you have to address them as Lord or Sir or whoever it is, or there's Stephen Fry coming in again, or whoever it is. It was quite mad.
So some really like top tier celebrities coming to get seats from you.
And some mad stories. Like I remember one of the places I worked at, it was like a bespoke shirt cutters, and it was it's like really old school, hundreds and hundreds of years old. And bespoke shirts are really, really expensive. And we had a guy come in one day to pick up a bunch of shirts that he'd had made 10 years earlier because he'd been in prison in South America for a decade.
And they'd kept the shirts for
They
him.
kept the shirts, yeah. Because it's that kind of old school place where, like, if you have a pattern cut, which is like where they measure you and they cut a pattern which they will then use to cut your shirts or your suits from, like a pattern of your body, basically. They keep that forever. So once you've had your pattern made, they keep it until you die. Similarly, if you have like a suit or a shirt made, they will keep it until you come and get it. So there was kind of racks out in the back, racks of suits and shirts that people hadn't come to pick up.
Right at the back of the warehouse.
Yeah. And this guy turned up and they were still there.
That is crazy.
Yeah.
So what is the worst job you ever did?
The worst job I don't know if it's just the worst or the weirdest, but it might be both as well. I worked, so my dad's lived like in Hackney all my life, and there's I won't name names, but there's a little place that opened up, a hotel that opened up around that area of Hackney, and basically when I think I was like 18, I took a job there as a night manager.
Right. Okay.
And my job was really simple. I had to wait for guests who were checking in late to arrive, let them in and show them to their room. And, you know, it was dead straightforward. I think I watched about 7 seasons of Dexter over the time that I worked at this place, because there was very little to do, but I was basically waiting for these people to come in. But the shift was weird because I think it was like 8 till 8 or something like that, 8 p.m. until 8 a.m. Obviously it's overnight. And so I'd stay up until maybe like midnight, and then basically out in the back was this little office, and I had a long filing cabinet. It was quite narrow. I mean, it's probably like just over half a meter wide. It had like a little roll mat on top. And at midnight, I used to like go out there and just like have a little sleep on the top of this filing cabinet out the back in the office. And you're kind of like there, like single, you know, like a little ironing board, kind of trying to take a little sleep on top of this filing cabinet. And obviously I'd fall asleep and people would be ringing the bell and knocking on the door because they'd have arrived off a flight at 2 a.m. and I was fast asleep, and I'd miss the door, and, you know, I'd eventually wake up 20 minutes later and go and get them. And they were kind of not always too happy. And then I left that job.
So if you were ever in Hackney, you know, a few years ago, got in late, and you can get anyone to let
into
you
your hotel, that might be why.
That was you.
Yeah, because I was asleep on top of the filing cabinet in the back.
So was it just letting people into their rooms, or was it like...
That was literally it, yeah.
Oh, really?
I had to lay out the breakfast as well.
Okay.
That was like the second half of the job. So basically, I think at like 7 a.m. I was supposed to lay out all of the breakfast stuff for when the guests came down. And it was like one of those kind of, you know, help yourself buffet style. You got cereal and toast and blah, blah, blah. And I had to just kind of, you know, lay the tables and get everything ready. There wasn't much to the job. I think partly the reason I didn't like it is because there was nothing to do. And when you're a lazy teenager, it sounds quite appealing. You're like, oh yeah, sick. I can just like watch Netflix and you know, I don't think there was Netflix then, but like watch, you remember when you could just like stream stuff really easily online, like any video or TV show?
Oh yeah.
You could just type in like blah, 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 watch online free, and you could find yeah.
I mean, I'm not admitting to anything, but you can definitely still do that.
That's really difficult to do now. But yeah, it was like one of them ones. I was like, oh yeah, great. There's very little to do. I can probably just like, one of my mates can come and hang out when I'm like, you know, just watching the door. There was a really good takeaway next door that I used to go to. And I thought it was a bit of a DOS, which is kind of why I took it. And then I quickly learned that actually a job where you have nothing to do isn't great. I mean, there was nothing overtly horrible about it. Actually, the guy who ran it was really nice, but it was just like, yeah, I think the idea of a job with nothing to do appealed to me a lot more than when I started it. And I realized, it's not great. Like, I'd rather be engaged in something and active and doing something. And yeah.
Sounds great until it's your weekly 5 a.m. and you've finished Dexter. Got nothing else to do.
Yeah, exactly. And you try and go and sleep on the filing cabinet out back. Yeah. That was probably my weirdest job now that I think back about it. Yeah. That was quite odd. I think I've had other jobs that have been like just downright more unpleasant, which is more when I get into the world of working in kitchens.
Okay, we'll come back to that in a second. So was there a point working in the hotel where you were like, I give up. Like this 6 a.m. I'm
Yeah.
sitting at the table, I'm out.
It was
Like,
this combination of like really antisocial hours and
what nights of the week was this?
when did I do it? I think I did it I think it was something like Thursday to Sunday or something like that.
Oh, so you missed every like
Yeah,
Friday, Saturday,
yeah.
you missed it all.
It was really antisocial hours and just wasn't stimulating. Like there was nothing very interesting about it. And I think I just got bored. I think I just got bored quickly and wanted to do something else and wanted to kind of, you know, I think when you're at that age, you're curious and you want to like go out into the world and do stuff and learn things and, you know, whatever. And that wasn't the place for me to do it.
And they stopped making good TV shows. So you just were like,
yeah,
I'm
and
out.
next to finish. So like I had nothing else to do.
So what is the thing about that job that just sticks out to you the most? Is that like one bit of your job that you just really didn't enjoy?
About that particular job, I just remember being bored.
That's it.
I just remember being bored. Yeah, I just
mundane, repetitive job
Exactly.
week in, week out.
Exactly. Yeah.
And how long did you last there?
Oh, 2.5 months, something like that.
That's a lot of late night shifts.
Yeah. It was too many.
So if you had to rate the job out of 5 being the best, 1 being the worst, what are you giving up?
I mean, nobody was like horrible to me or anything, but
And you slept half the time.
and
That
I got quite a lot of sleep in. Maybe a 3.
Okay, that's
Yeah.
not so bad.
Maybe fair.
So right now we have you at a 3. I believe Ethan rated his pizza delivery job at a 3.
Okay.
And then Cam rated his at a 2.5 for
Ooh.
pot washing, which I'm sure you must have had your fair
Yeah,
share of as well.
I've been a pot wash. Yeah,
And how does that compare to the hotel work?
it's definitely worse.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
We'll come back to that.
It's just
in a second.
harder in every way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just a lot of work.
Yeah.
So presumably before you got involved with Mob, you were working in like a lot of more professional kitchens and restaurants types of thing. Do you have any proper horror stories from them?
Man, I've seen some mad things. Yeah, of course. I've had to do some jobs which have been either questionable or tiring or tedious, and I've seen some shit go on. Yeah, of course.
Some stuff you'd hide from the health inspector.
Definitely. I think one of the maddest things I've seen is I was temping in a restaurant in Paris, and I saw a steak, a beautifully cooked, very expensive steak, get passed. So in some kitchens you have like little sinks, right? You have obviously the big wash up sink, and then you have smaller sinks on your stations.
Also for washing up, or?
They're for for rinsing stuff, washing
Okay.
your hands, cleaning your knives, whatever it is. And I saw this very beautiful, expensive steak slide straight off we use these little like hot kind of metal circles. I don't know if you've seen them, where a steak, it comes out of the pan, it goes onto the little hot dish, and then it goes onto the side before being put on the plate.
Okay, yeah.
And I saw it slide straight off there into a sink full of soapy water and get taken straight back out, flashed back in the pan, and then plated up.
That is horrible.
You know, just like in the heat of service when everybody's like really stressed and you don't have time to cook another one, and it's a, really expensive piece of meat. Yeah, it got pulled out of the sink, rinsed off, flashed back in a pan and served.
Did it get sent back at all?
It
Like,
didn't. No.
Bubbly taste on it?
Yeah, a little bit fairy liquid. No, it was, it was fine. Maybe that's the secret to good French steak.
Fairy washing up liquid.
Yeah.
So there's like a kind of, I don't know, it's probably not a misconception. Like the idea that working in a professional kitchen is really intense, really hard work. How true is that?
It is. It can be. I think it's maybe not a misconception, but a generalization. I've been really lucky to work in a lot of really, really nice places with great people. And I've never had like horror stories of somebody throwing like a boiling hot saucepan at my head or anything like that. But yeah, essentially it is intense. It is tough. It can be long hours. It can be fast paced. It can be all of those things that you imagine. And yeah, the heat can get to people, and you see kind of little meltdowns. You see, I've seen, what have I? I've seen chefs go into. We have like a cool room, which is basically a giant walk-in fridge,
Okay,
right?
yeah.
And I've definitely kind of seen people go in, close the door, and you just hear someone like scream for a little bit and come back out again, or whatever it is. It's quite a fiery environment sometimes.
How often is there just like shouting matches?
I mean, I've been quite lucky in that most places I've worked, everybody's been really quite nice and friendly. And I haven't been involved in too much of that. I've definitely heard stories about other places where it's really bad, especially in more like old school kitchens, right? When I was working in Paris, I was working with people who'd kind of come up through a lot of those real like hard ass old school French kitchens, and some of the shit you hear is just like unreal. You know, about I've heard stories about like a chef taking a spoon and placing it on the, over the gas until it's literally kind of burning hot, and then pressing it on somebody's hand.
That's just assault.
Yeah, straight up. Like it's really wrong.
Right, so we're moving on to a section which we call listener questions.
Okay.
Pretty self-explanatory. Our listeners just submit questions that they want me to ask you and just get a bit of feedback on. So we've got some really good ones today.
Cool.
Like the old internet debate.
Yeah.
Chinese or Indian?
Indian.
Really?
Hands down every time.
I agree with you.
Yeah.
How so? Why?
So very close to the place that I work, to the hotel, is my favourite takeaway in London.
Really?
Ganges Tandoori on Dalston Lane.
In Hackney?
Oh man, so good. Yeah. It's been there since like the 80s. My family have been, ordering from there for forever, for as long as I've known. And yeah, man, it's wicked.
That's perfect, because for the listeners that don't know, we actually film in Hackney.
There we go.
So if we ever have a late night shoot, I might have to.
That is the one.
Head straight there.
I love it. The guys are super, super nice. The food is fantastic. And yeah, I can't imagine a scenario where I'd order anything else other than that, basically.
I agree. I think Indian's definitely superior.
Yeah, for sure. I feel like it's probably more difficult to get good Chinese food in the UK than good Indian food.
Yeah, I probably agree.
Which is like maybe part of a wider conversation, but yeah, I think that's probably by and large. You can get really, really good Chinese food here, but I think it's a bit more difficult.
So you've been at Mob for a couple of months now.
Yeah.
How nerve-wracking is catering or hosting a Mob kitchen dinner party?
I haven't done one.
Have you not?
No.
Because I can imagine there's a lot of pressure when everyone gets together.
Yeah. I haven't done one, but I think that. Oh, I wonder how nervous I'd be. I think it's okay, because do you know what takes the edge off is the fact that everybody in the studio comes to eat what you make every day.
Oh, okay. So
when we finish,
same old.
when we're finished filming something, everybody kind of comes in and tries it and takes some and whatever. And so I feel like, because I'm used to people eating the food I cook there, if I did have to cook like a dinner for everybody in the office, it would be okay.
It really takes the pressure off, because you're kind of already doing it anyway.
I've already, they've already eaten my food so many times that it's all right.
Do you have a favourite weird food combination?
Oh, I've probably got so many.
Any really wild ones?
This is weird. Banana and Marmite is quite good.
I've heard this before.
Yeah.
I don't believe it. I'm never trying it.
Like, it's a bit jarring when you think about it, but if you get, I love just buttery toast with Marmite. My stepdad told me about this. If you kind of buttery toast and you mash some ripe banana onto it, buttery toast, and then you put a little bit of Marmite, as you would, and then you mash some banana on top of that, it just gives it this, like, imagine salted caramel, but
Salted caramel from Marmite and banana.
Yeah. Those kind of sweet salty vibes is where it's going.
You are not selling me in the slightest. That sounds absolutely vile to me.
It's weird. It is weird, but something about it works.
I might have to take you. I might have to try it. So coming back to weird food.
Yeah.
Pineapple on pizza, yes or no?
No.
Really?
No.
No way. I love pineapple on pizza.
My theory is that if your pizza is really good, i.e. the tomato sauce is really good, pineapple doesn't work with good tomato sauce. It only works with kind of shitty tomato sauce.
I won't pretend like I've ever made my own tomato sauce and put pineapple
So
on.
like, how do I put this? I actually think there's a place for pineapple pizza.
Is it like takeaway pizza?
Yeah. Like Domino's can nail a Hawaiian. What I don't really like is when like somewhere that does quite good Neapolitan pizza does like a sort of gimmicky pineapple pizza, because I don't think it's that good.
So you're a bit of a pizza purist in that way.
Yeah, like I will so happily eat a Domino's, but if I'm eating fancy pizza, I want, it's not really fancy, but you know what I mean, like proper pizza, then I just want a proper pizza. And I don't like the crossover of like a pineapple on a really good pizza.
Yeah, I can understand that.
That's kind of where I'm at with it, yeah.
All right, last one. This one is from me as well. I have about £8 in my bank account.
Okay.
Because I went and got a coffee this morning. And my girlfriend is coming to visit me at uni in about a week and a half.
Yeah.
So I'm going to try and save that £8. What am I cooking?
Ooh. I mean, as soon as you think low budget, my mind turns to pasta.
You were saying this before the show started.
Yeah.
You're a big pasta fan.
I like cooking pasta, and I think you can cook really good pasta on a really, really low budget. So I think like one of my favorite pastas is also one of the most simple and cheap dishes that I think I know how to make. And it's just pasta cooked with garlic, olive oil, chili flakes, and sometimes you could put parsley in there as well if you want. And it's like, it's basically the Italian equivalent of like a couple of slices of toast that you might have when you get home from school. It's like, you know, it comes together in the time it takes the pasta to cook. And the ingredients are dirt cheap, basically.
That's perfect, because I do not have much time either.
Yeah, it's super simple. It's called aglio e olio, which just means garlic and oil.
Okay, I might have to get you to write that down for me, because I am not remembering that. So we're coming on to the second half of the podcast now, and It's more about what you're doing now with Mob and kind of how you got there.
Mm-hmm.
So tell us a bit more about like what you are working on currently. Is there just like the videos that you're doing, or is there a bigger project that you're working on at the same time?
Yeah, it's quite exciting. So we are about to launch YouTube.
Oh, wow.
Which is obviously quite a big deal for, you know, a platform like Mob, which is so focused around like social and digital media. And it'll be the first time that we've done like long form video. So up until this point, pretty much everything that Mob has done is all quite short because it relies on platforms like Instagram and Facebook and that kind of thing. And we've just moved into these new offices in Hoxton, which is really exciting. And they are in the process of finishing the new studio kitchens in there now. And as soon as they're finished, then we will begin kind of filming for YouTube. So that's quite an exciting thing that we got coming up.
So how would you think like the format is going to change? Because obviously you're going to have to, you know, get a couple more minutes in. Is it going to be more you on camera presenting, or is it going to be more details about the food?
Exactly. It will be a combination of both. It will be much more like face to camera, really like going into a bit more detail, talking about why we're doing what we're doing, how it works. It will allow people to kind of see the process a lot more. And certain stuff works. In fact, I think a lot of the stuff we do works really well the way we shoot it at the moment, which is just kind of where you can see your hands.
I mean, you've got a huge following. You're doing something right.
Something's working well, right? But there's certain things where it would be so much easier to like really watch the person do it. I think things like if you're making bread or working with dough or making pasta or, you know, something like that, it can be really nice to be like a little bit further back with the camera and really see what they're doing and how they're, you know, how they're cooking. I think that's really exciting. And I think the longer form will give us a chance to go out of the studio. And we're definitely, you know, piloting some stuff which is going to be out and about in London, which could be, you know, talking to people, whether they're like celebrities, about, you know, what they eat and where they shop or anything like that. It could be going into restaurants and, you know, learning stuff from chefs. It could be going to visit producers and suppliers and to see, you know, how they make the food that we eat. There's kind of all sorts of potential for YouTube.
Yeah, that's some really exciting stuff.
Quite exciting. Yeah.
I've seen like Mob Kitchen go to a lot of like university campuses. Is that stuff you're going to get on film as well?
Yeah. I think
actually finally giving students a good meal.
Yeah, totally. So we've got one of the guys at Mob, Jack. He runs like the event side of the business, and his thing, part of what he does is the Mob truck, which visits lots of different university campuses. We've actually got a new tour starting, you know, as we're getting into, well, we're in freshers season now, I suppose. We're definitely like at the beginning of a new university year. So the Mob truck is off on its tour around all of the university campuses. And, you know, it's a combination of like selling really nice, cheap meals for students that they can go and buy from the truck. And just, I suppose, getting people introduced to the brand and letting them know where they can find us and find our recipes and follow along with what they do. And hopefully kind of encourage people to be able to cook some nice stuff at uni.
Do you have any idea of like how many people watch your videos and then go out and make it? Like, do you get messages like, I've just tried this?
We do. It's really nice.
Because there's like a lot of followers. I can imagine, like, me personally, I'm not a great chef. Don't put a lot of time into it. And I watch videos and then I go, I don't have time. I'll get a pizza.
I mean, either way, I think there's something to be said for like food content that's just enjoyable to watch. But also we do get a lot of people a lot of people. I mean, I could have a look on my phone right now on the mob account. There'd be, so many DMs of people saying, I just made this, it was really good, or like, I've just done this, here's a picture of it, or a video of me making this, or, it's really nice. And I get people kind of DM me personally and say, I've just made, this dish that you did for mob, which is a really lovely feeling when somebody like enjoys a recipe that you've created.
I mean, I was telling you before we started, like my friend from uni is in love with your artichoke salad.
There you go. Yeah, that's so nice.
So for listeners, if you haven't tried it, pick it up.
It's good.
I've never tried it, but she swears by it. So
yeah, it's nice, and it's quite new to me because before I was cooking for people in restaurants, right? And you can see when somebody's enjoyed their meal, which is really nice, but it's a different thing to them kind of recreating it at home from your recipe, right? So yeah, it's really nice when people kind of message and and they enjoy it, and occasionally someone doesn't, but that's fine as well.
Yeah, so not everyone can like everything.
Yeah.
So how did you kind of get into the more food, like producing and kind of being a bit more of a presenter rather than just being a chef?
It all started with a DM. Ben slid into my DMs. Ben's the owner of Mob, the CEO. Yeah, he slid into my DMs and said, "We've got this food producer role. If you're interested, then apply. Send me a CV." And so I did. It was one of those things where it kind of I knew that I wanted to go into that side of cooking and into a bit of the kind of storytelling and the recipe development and the meeting people and talking to people, but I'd never kind of. It was just in the back of my mind. It was ticking along while I was working in restaurants. And then when he DM'd me and invited me to apply for this role, it kind of just kickstarted it. And obviously I went through the application process and the interviews and got the job. And and then here we are. And it's nice. It's different it's really different to working in a restaurant, cooking professionally. I think there's a lot of things that I've taken from my time working in restaurants to this job, because essentially I am still cooking, right? I'm still creating recipes, which is what you do as a chef in a restaurant, but the scale is different and the intent is different because it's for people to cook at home. So I think it's less about maybe trying to impress somebody by cooking something really clever, and more about trying to create something that people can make and enjoy themselves at home.
And how did the DM come about? Was that based off like just your Instagram?
Yeah, it was just off my Insta. So I kind of had started putting food on Instagram, just things that I was cooking either at home or sometimes at work, wherever I was working. And I think Mob followed me and were kind of liking the look of what I was doing. And yeah, I suppose thought maybe I'd be good for them. Good for the role, yeah.
Well, yeah, because your Instagram is just full of photos of food that you
Are
you into photography, by the way?
I do quite like photography. Yeah, my mum's into photography.
Because you have like a really nice way of making your food look artsy.
Thank you.
Does it happen at Mob as well, where like everyone has to take a photo of their food before it gets eaten?
Yeah, I mean, it is quite literally part of the job, I would say. Yeah, definitely. Pretty much always. I mean, if we're testing, we like to take a couple of pictures so that we can look back at it and say, oh, maybe I need to tweak this, change that, add this, take that away. And then when we're filming, of course, we need to take lots of photos for the website, for social media, if it's going to be sent to a client, if it's a recipe that we're using, if we're creating a recipe for a client, then it will be, sent to a client. So yeah, there's a lot of everything gets photographed or filmed before it gets eaten.
When you're cooking at home now, do you still try and make everything look presentable, or are you not really as bothered anymore now you're doing it
depends on what kind of state I'm in. If it's a Sunday and I'm cooking a nice lunch or something, then yeah, I will. I'll still kind of put effort into it, take pride in what I'm cooking. If it's late at night and I'm drunk, then not as much. No, it just goes in the bowl, and then yeah.
So if you could go back and give like a teenage version of yourself, or just someone that's trying to get into either like food presenting or cooking, some advice, what would it be?
I think the best advice I could give in terms of if you wanted to go into a similar role to what I do now would be don't try to become like a food presenter or a producer or something like that. Learn how to cook first.
That will always help.
That will always help, right? So yeah, go and work in a restaurant. I mean, that's the best advice I can give. I think cooking as a chef in a restaurant is the easiest and the quickest way to learn about food. You're going to learn about all of the basic techniques that you need to know to cook well, in terms of like, you know, how to use a knife properly, and how to, you know, dice an onion, how to fry and saute and deep fry and braise and boil and blah 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 blah. You're going to learn all of those techniques, which are like the fundamentals of cooking. You're going to learn about ingredients and seasonality, and you're going to learn about different cuisines, and you're going to learn from different people. And I think then with that, you can go forward and take it into different directions. So you could, you know, you could work as a chef and you could open your own restaurant, or you could, you know, work for somebody else in their group of restaurants, or you could go and write about food, or you could, you know, do TV, or you could do podcasts, or you could do social media. But yeah, I think that foundational aspect of it is really important.
Has everyone like at Mob worked in a kitchen before?
Yeah, all three of us who do what we do, we've all worked in professional kitchens.
So it's not even like just a recommendation, it's almost a requirement to like get into that kind of thing.
I would say so. I think that most, even people who are just kind of making like food for home cooking, right? I think it's still such a good foundation. And I think most chefs and most kind of food personalities who do what they do well have that as their kind of base, as their foundation. I just think it's like the easiest and the quickest and the best way to learn about food.
That's really interesting. Did you get into like cooking, was that after you were already cooking at home and taking the photos, and then you got into like a more traditional chef role, or was it that first and the food producing later?
Yeah, the food producing came later. It was at uni that I got like really into cooking.
Okay. Probably, unlike everyone else.
yeah. And probably slightly to the detriment of my studying, actually. I
can't come to a lecture, I'm braising a pork shoulder.
Do you know what I mean? Yeah, no, it was like no, maybe not, that might be harsh on myself. I did still do okay, but it was like, it really like captured me. I got really interested in it. I suppose the detriment to my study comes from like not writing my essay because I was watching Anthony Bourdain or something like that. You know, I was watching Parts Unknown, or I was watching Chef's Table, or whatever it was, or I was reading books about food, and sometimes I think that took me away from what I was studying. But you know, that's when I became really interested in food. I was cooking for my housemates, cooking for myself. I realized quite quickly it was a good way to like make friends, and good for dates, good for like, you know, all kinds of stuff. People always liked it if you could cook, right? And I think food just brings people together in a really nice way.
Coming back to dates, is there a lot of pressure on you on dates now if you're cooking?
Well, I've got a girlfriend.
Oh, okay.
So less so. She does have high expectations though. Yeah, I feel like I'd be letting her down if I wasn't up to scratch in the kitchen.
Does she cook for you as well?
Yeah, she does.
I think I would be too scared to cook for my partner if they did what you do.
Everyone says that. Yeah, everyone says that, but no, it's pretty chill. I mean, but yeah, when you like back at uni or whatever, if people know you can cook and you're going on a date and you are going to make them dinner, it just works out quite nicely. I think it's just like a good little tick box, right? Everybody kind of appreciates it.
So you're doing way better stuff than just the classic come to my flat for spag bowl.
Yeah, exactly. You kind of like, I don't know, you can impress people a little bit. You can push the boat out and just do something a little bit different, get a bit creative in the kitchen.
So with the benefit of hindsight, is there anything you would do differently that that got you here now? Is there any like avenue you wish you went down a bit further or avoided at all?
I think I've been quite lucky in that most of my experiences before cooking have, in funny like roundabout ways, become useful. So like I got really interested in cooking at uni, but I actually worked in marketing for a year after I graduated, before I became a chef. And even though I left that behind to go and cook professionally, a lot of what I learned has become increasingly relevant now that I'm doing what I do now at Mob. Because obviously our platform now is almost somewhere between like a marketing agency and a restaurant. Obviously, we don't cook food for customers or anything like that, but we, make food for people to cook at home and for all kinds of different brands that we work with. And so it kind of, I don't know, there's some overlap there. There's definitely some overlap between the world of marketing and the world of being a food producer.
It's definitely a very unique kind of business that you're in.
Yeah, it's kind of, it's all quite new, right? That, like, my job hasn't existed for very long. So it's quite new and it's quite at the forefront of, like, yeah, that idea, I suppose.
So like we've been saying, a whole lot of the stuff you do is like social media creation and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Is there like any advice you'd give for students trying to get involved in that?
Like wanting to put out nice content.
Yeah, not even necessarily food, just like something that grabs attention.
Yeah, I mean, I think that it's a saturated marketplace, right? There's a lot of photos of food on Instagram or
100%,
videos of food on Instagram. I think that if you can tell a story about why you're cooking what you're cooking, that's always quite nice. If there's like something for people to relate to, it could be like a personal story. It could be about if you've been somewhere and eaten something. I don't know. That's what engages me when it comes to food content, is a little bit more than just a photo. And sometimes just a really pleasing photo of something that looks nice is enough. I mean, there's nothing wrong with that at all. And quite often that's what I, post on Instagram. But I do think it's nice if you can get, like, it could be a funny story, or it could be an interesting history of where that thing comes from, or it could be like why it's special to you. It doesn't have to actually be funny or interesting. It could just be like, this is something that my grandma used to make me and it takes me back to that time, or whatever it is, just a little bit of depth to it.
So a personal touch can get you really far.
I think so. Yeah, I think so.
That's really
At least
good,
that's what I like. That's what I kind of look for, or I'd say what I stay with when I'm browsing through. If something like catches my eye and it's somebody telling a little story about it, that's what always interests me.
That's really great to know. Well, thank you so much for coming on today. It's been so great chatting to you. You can follow Jordon at Jordon Ezra King on Instagram and at Mob Kitchen as well.
Yeah.
So where can everyone kind of see you next? Is it just the Mob Kitchen kind of thing, the YouTube videos? Stay tuned for that?
Yeah. It's going to be lots more content coming from Mob on socials, on YouTube, and you will see what's next.
Perfect.
Thank you for having me.
Thanks for listening. If you have enjoyed this, then please make sure you subscribe so that you don't miss any future episodes. If you're really feeling the love, then please leave us a 5-star review. It really does help us out. And follow us over on Instagram and TikTok at @StudentBeans. Cheers. See you next week.